Historical Wealth, The Advice I Wish I Would Have Heard by Matt Augspurger. When it comes to matters of money, it's not hard to look back and think what you may have done differently. When local folks were asked what advice they wished they would have listened to or what advice they would give now, this is what they said. Quote, "There is never enough money to do everything you want to do. The more you make, the more often you have to choose to say no, because you will have more opportunities to say yes." End quote. Interesting note, Sports Illustrated estimated a few years ago that 80% of retired NFL players go broke in their first 3 years out of the league because they can't say no. Quote, "Children are expensive. It's never the right time to have a child. When it happens, you have to adjust and make it work. Investing is the same way. There's never a right time. You have to make it happen." End quote. Quote, "Give money away by habit. Do it from every paycheck. It proves to yourself that you control your money and not the other way around." End quote. Quote, 10, 10, 80, 10% to charity, 10% to savings or investments. Live on the 80%. My friends started giving their young children weekly allowance in dimes. The kids lined them all up in columns and gave the first one as offering every Sunday at church. They pulled the second one aside to their investment account to fund their future, and the rest they spent how they pleased. The goal was to make habits of both giving and paying yourself. If you make 10, 10, 80 a habit when you only make $1, you can carry on that habit when you make $100,000. End quote. Quote, "Memories are an investment. Investing a lot toward retirement is important. After all, you have to be able to eat when you're 80 years old, but experiences have value too. After you retire and can't do things you used to do, you rely on the memories you made. That's what you talk about at family dinners, Christmases, and picnics. Be sure to set aside time and money to make memories." End quote. Quote, "Debt is a tool. It's a high consequence tool, kind of like a chainsaw. If you use it correctly, you can get a job done, but if you use it incorrectly, you'll cut your foot off. Always respect debt or it will eat you alive. I use the rule of thumb that debt can be used for the purpose of building a net worth, like buying a house or a building project, or for a business to bridge the time between when inventory needs to be purchased and when it is sold. Debt should not be used for everyday projects, and always have an exit strategy so you don't over leverage." End quote. Quote, "It seems like married couples fight more about money than anything else. Never spend money behind your spouse's back. It betrays trust, and that leads to a slippery slope. If you trust your spouse and your spouse trusts you, then even if you disagree, you have a foundation that will help the marriage last." End quote. Quote, "Set a parameter for fun money. If you don't use debt, then you know how much you have each month, so make sure to budget some fun money. That way the process doesn't feel so restrictive. And if you save money in advance for future fun, then you have things to look forward to." End quote. Think about death. Nobody likes to, but it's a certainty. My brother is relying on his inheritance to make it, but my parents keep insisting on not dying. My brother will probably be in his mid-70s before my folks pass. That's a long time to wait. Plan for not needing an inheritance." End quote. Quote, "Give money to your grandkids. My grandparents left me money in their will, and it was life-changing. It wasn't so much that I got into trouble, but it was enough to do some significant life improvement changes. I was in my 30s, and it made life with a new house and a new baby a lot easier." End quote. Quote, "Keep a file folder or a hard copy list of all the investment accounts and all the insurance policies you have. In case something happens, you want your survivors to know where everything is located. It's no fun to mourn, and it's even worse to mourn and to have to dig for financial answers." End quote. Quote, "I was told that as soon as I hit age 18 that I needed to open a checking account and get a credit card. I wish back then someone would have advised me to also open a brokerage account at the same time. Balance the checking every month, pay off the credit card balance each statement, and invest from the beginning." End quote. At Nepsis Incorporated, Mark Pearson, the president and CIO, is often heard saying, process before progress. The process is the goal, the progress is the result. We found that if you get really good at the process, then the result takes care of itself. Human nature is to get too focused on the outcome, whether that is the retirement date, the one-year return, or the company in the portfolio. It's an easy trap to get focused on the outcome when it's the journey and the strategy that actually requires the focus. Why? Because an outcome is a one-time event, but strategy is repeatable. Advisory services offered by Nepsis Incorporated, SEC registered investment advisor.